All right, we'll get started today with student athletes from Oklahoma. From left to right, we have Peyton Verhulst, Skylar Van, and Sahara Williams. We will now open it up to questions. Right here at front.
George Stoyes, Sooner Scoop. Obviously, the storyline with this game is Jenny and her time at Iowa. I'm just wondering, has she talked to you guys at all about how good of a player she was at Iowa, and has she shown any of that in practice before?
Peyton, we'll let you take this one.
Oh, wow. That's a packed question. She definitely has shown it. Yeah. No, I know. All good things, I promise, Jenny. She definitely has showed us in practice, and she's kicked our butt some, too. We've kicked her butt sometimes. She doesn't want to admit that, maybe. But I think this game, Jenny does a really good job of we don't really want to live up to any hype of rivalries, even when we play Texas and we have the Red River rivalry and stuff like that. I think for us, we just want to play basketball. No matter who we play, no matter who we're playing against, where we're playing. I think for us, it just matters about the game.
Right up here.
I'm curious, Iowa has had some big wins this year, obviously, and of course they were the talk of basketball with Caitlin the last couple of years. This is a different team, though, that comes in. Skylar and Sahara, talk about what you see in Iowa and what you think you're going to get, what kind of matchup you guys are getting into.
Sky, we'll let you go first.
Okay. Iowa's a great team. And they can do a lot from the inside and out. They can shoot, get inside the paint. They have the mid-range game, too. I think for us, it's just going to be really big on guarding, emphasizing that, and just knowing personnel, knowing who we're guarding, having those gaps, just having each other's backs and help and everything. So.
I think, like Skylar said, they kind of can score at all three levels. They play out of a pick and roll a lot, so just really defending that. But I think just doing what we do and making this game about us and how we defend, how we want to play, and I think the scoreboard will take care of itself.
Right here.
James Jackson, Sooners Illustrated. Just want to go back to the fourth quarter yesterday and how you all were playing there. Did you think the slower start was because of having a 2-week layoff and getting to that point? Did that go into it at all for you all in that game? And is the fourth quarter kind of like where you think you all can be going into this game on Monday?
Peyton, we'll start with you.
Definitely. I think fourth quarter, you see that kind of the separator for us in a lot of games, and I think it has a lot to do with our depth. You see that kind of kicks in when you're playing against teams that maybe aren't as deep. And so just for the style of play that we play, it's really important that we continue to play deep because we get up and down a lot and have a lot of possessions. So I feel like the fourth quarter looks that way because of our depth. And obviously we did have a special, unique situation where we had a week and a half off before we played. And I feel like now we got a game under our belts and we're at home, so that always helps.
Tarek Mall Street, Norman Transcript. For Sahara, how different do you feel coming into the tournament this year compared to last year?
I'd say a lot more confident, just a lot more ready. I feel a lot more experienced, being that, we got to play last year at Indiana, playing Indiana, but just a lot more confident because I feel like this team has worked so hard in the offseason, and our chemistry is really getting to a spot where I think we're going to peak in March and in the beginning of April, so I'm just super excited.
Ethan Petrick, Quad City Times. Sahara, now it's a little bit more real than when we were chatting with you on Friday about potentially playing Iowa. What's a matchup with your home state team mean to you?
To me, honestly, it's just another basketball game. Iowa's a great team. I tip my hat off to them and, their coaching staff and everyone who recruited me. But I'm here at Oklahoma, so I'm happy to be here with Jenny and just the team that we have and just being able to play tomorrow.
Ethan Peter, Quad City Times. Sahara, how much did Coach's Iowa background and being from the state, how much of a connection did that help you build with her in the recruiting process, and how real was the recruiting relationship between you and Jan Jensen?
It was a good recruiting process. I thought I built good connections with them, but just Jenny being from Iowa and just recruited me when she was at Drake also, I think having that special connection is what led me to follow her here at Oklahoma. So I think it was a good recruiting process, but I ended up here with Jenny, so I'm happy about that.
Kath.
Kathleen Geyer from the Next. Skylar, what really attracted you to this program originally, and how much do you think you've learned, especially in this system that Jenny runs?
Well, I'm an Oklahoma kid, obviously, so I've been an Oklahoma fan my whole life. Especially my dad playing here. So I mean, I wanted to come here, and this was like a dream of mine. So coming here, it was kind of when I got the offer to come here, I was like, I'm, not second guessing. I'm coming here. And I am super blessed, especially with the coaching change my freshman year, that Jenny came in. I remember our first Zoom meeting with her. Automatically, I was like, oh, I'm staying. Like, I want to play for her, and I just want to see if I like it or not. And it's been 4 years now, and I'm extremely grateful that I came back after last year too, and just to be with this team. It was a easy decision to be like, I'll take my 5th year here and just experience it one more time. So
We're really happy she came back too.
Anything else for the players? All right. Thank you, guys.
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
They were up 6 with like 10 seconds left.
me today? Depends on how after practice. But right now, I'm great.
All right, we'll now open it up to questions for head coach Jenny Baranczyk. Right here up front.
Say hello, KC Sports Radio. Jenny, talk about this matchup because they've had some great wins this year, and I know they come in as not one of the favorites to get through, but this is going to be a heck of a matchup tomorrow.
Well, I mean, we're in the NCAA tournament, so you know that every game is going to be a really good game. But obviously, Iowa's really good, or they wouldn't be in the tournament. And they're so talented; they've grown this season. They're obviously a program that you don't get to keep a really close eye on, but you keep an eye on. Obviously, with my background, and again, just so we're all aware, I played there. So, yeah, I mean, I have all the respect in the world. I know how good they are. I know how good they've been. I know for a lot of years I've followed that program. So we're not overlooking anything, and we better be ready.
Bench Evans aside, you've been closer and closer and closer at this spot in the tournament. What's it going to take for this group of veterans, plus Reagan, all that, to push through, get to the second weekend? Well,
you got to play the game. And you can't get too far ahead of yourself. You can't hold on to things that are behind you. And I think we kind of had to work through some of that yesterday, and you could see that in our game. And so we've got to be able to step out, and you've got to be able to play the game. And then you also have to have things go right, and some of those things you can control and some of those things you can't control, but you got to give everything you have. I think the other thing is we got to have a lot of fans come. And a 3:00 start it's a hard start time. But we've got to have everybody in Norman get over here and come fill the stands. I think it's going to take that as well. So I'm excited to continue to build our fan base. I thought our crowd was amazing. Sorry, that's all my stuff. I thought our crowd was amazing yesterday. I loved how many people came. I think we're continuing to build it. We're continuing to grow it. But we still have a long way to go. And tomorrow is going to be a great tipping point for us to really see how far we have come and how far people want us to go here.
Go in the back.
Holden Cruz-Mark, KFOR TV. Jenny, kind of along the same lines, I know Reagan and Peyton have had that experience playing past the round of 32. Is there anything you've learned from them as a coach, just getting to play, what it takes to kind of get to that level? And what would it mean for the program moving forward, just to show that you guys can make it to the Sweet 16 and beyond?
Well, honestly, I really look at the coaching profession as our student athletes are our greatest teachers. And I think all the time, so many times you sit there and you try to emulate different coaches and you try to do different things and you try to study different programs, and not that I don't do that, because obviously I've had great mentors. I mean, Jan Jensen's one of those, and Lisa Bluter was one of those. But at the same time, I think your players constantly teach you these incredible lessons, and then they teach you how to continue to get better. So their experiences getting to where they've been are different. So there's not a pattern. If there was a pattern, it'd be really easy to be able to do. But there isn't. And so you've got to learn through life experiences. And so I think they continue to teach me. And I love their leadership, period, regardless of where they've been. I think they show up every day. They have a smile on their face. You can't help but really like them. Competitors might not like them between the lines, but once you talk to them outside the lines, they're literally just the most amazing people. So, of course, they're going to teach us, but there's not just a blueprint. There's not a one-way, to do this.
Coach Jack Birmingham, Daily Iowan. I like that you've touched on this already, but obviously you played 4 seasons at Iowa during the Bluter era. You've got connections, obviously, to Iowa and Jan Jensen, and obviously your coaching tenure is now at Oklahoma. But does tomorrow's game feel a little maybe sentimental or nostalgic to you? And if so, can you talk me through kind of how specifically that feels?
There's kind of a couple ways I can, I'll go about this. The first way is, when I was at Drake, we played Iowa for 9 years. So you learn to, at the beginning, it's personal and you want it so bad for yourself, right? And then you realize it's really not about you. Then you grow, you start to see your teams compete, and then it becomes a game. And then you can really have respect and love for a place that you came from and other programs. And you keep it between the lines because you want to win every game that you play. But, every other game that Iowa plays, I want them to win. Of course I do. I want them to be really successful. That's one way. This game will be a little bit sentimental because this December I lost one of my teammates that I played with at Iowa for 3 of those 4 years. And she's, a mom, and she did the radio, and you all know her, Jamie Cavey. And that's humbling. That's hard. That's going to be something that we're going to celebrate tomorrow. So you'll see us have 52 pins on. So we're going to get some for the Iowa staff as well. And that will be somebody that we want to celebrate and honor during this game. Because she meant a lot to me personally, but she really meant a lot to that program. And that's important for me on both levels.
Yeah, Cliff Brown, Associated Press. Just kind of wanted to know kind of what it's been like answering your cell phone since you found out that you'd be playing Iowa. Like, are you getting a bunch of calls, or are you getting some good-natured ribbing from people? Like, how is that aspect of things going for you?
Well, the SEC Network brought out old playing photos, so that was awesome. Fashion was a little different in the early 2000s, and so were hairstyles. But, I mean, of course, you get that. And at the same time, you want to keep it a game, too. And I want to keep it less about the fact that I played there however many years ago. And I know you're all going to have the dates, so please just leave that out. But I really want to keep it on how special our team has been this year. We've had a phenomenal year, and it's been a hard year. And it's been one that, we've had to fall down, we've had to get up, we've had to grow, we've had to, we're in a new conference. Every game that we've played this season has been like an NCAA tournament game. So it's just been a really cool journey that goes back a couple years. And this team has really grown together. So that's really where I want to keep the focus as much as I can. You guys can keep the focus wherever you want.
Kyle Huseman, Hawkeye Report. I apologize if you've heard a different question or a similar question. I walked in a couple minutes late. Obviously, every time you prepare for a team, there's probably a couple of categories you say, man, this team that we're about to face does this really well or that really well. When you look at Iowa and you've been scouting them, what kind of stands out about them that maybe are the biggest challenges that you guys are going to face tomorrow?
Well, I think Iowa has depth. I think they can space you out. I think, obviously, they can drive the ball. They can score in the paint. They can shoot the three. They've got great post play. Just a very traditional Iowa team. And not to mention they have experience. So I understand that they had a superstar on their team a year ago, and they've had to work through some things as well. But they have that experience, too, that we don't have. So that's always something. And they have a fan base that travels. And, I've said this a million times. What I've been really excited about in the state of Oklahoma is, I come from a background from Iowa where women's basketball matters. And it mattered before Caitlin came to Iowa. Now, she really elevated it, obviously, but it's always been really important in that state. And we want to continue to have women's sports, and in particular, obviously, our sport in women's basketball really elevated here in Oklahoma. We want young people to want to grow up and come here, just like young people do in the state of Iowa.
Jeff Linder, Cedar Rapids Gazette. Reagan Beer said in the locker room that you do a lot of scrimmaging with the team.
Thanks,
Jeff. Tell us a little bit about that. What's
a lot is strong.
Okay,
that is very. What do you want me to tell you about that? Have I pulled a muscle? Maybe.
What's your role on the scout team?
It's not every day. Sometimes you step in. Sometimes, and unfortunately, you're old enough to have covered some of those games when I was a little out of control and competitive, and I'm still maybe that today, just in a different capacity. But no, it's fun. I love this game. Like, I love it. This is why I'm doing it. I had a great experience, obviously, in college. We've talked about that. I love coaching. I have just this immense passion for young people to figure things out, to be competitive, to understand that competition isn't always to hope somebody doesn't do well. It's just to bring out this incredible gift of teamwork. And so sometimes you just do what it takes as a college coach, and sometimes I have to step in and humble them, and sometimes I get humbled. So it's I just do it because I love it and it's fun, and sometimes it's just a little bit more efficient when you're, trying to figure some things out on scout team.
Stay up front.
Chad Lice, Dakota, Des Moines Register. You mentioned you cheer for Iowa when you're not playing them. I guess just what about this particular team, and what about the job that Jan Jensen has done as a first-year coach, which I'm sure you know how hard it is to be a first-year coach. What do you think of the job that she's done in her first year?
I'm proud of Jan. I love that. I love that Lisa ended, her career the way she wanted to end it. I love that she passed it on to Jan. I think it's really positive for so many programs that want to build something and sustain something, and that's what they've done. But I also, and I don't know this, but it looks like Jan's done it her way too. And that's not easy to do when you've been with somebody for so long. You kind of start thinking the same. And I think she's just done a great job of being able to build that program. And Jan's not afraid of anything. I mean, Jan's Jan. I mean, I've literally, I grew up going to Drake basketball camps when Lisa and Jan were there. And Jan used to chase me around, and it just used to drive me crazy. I didn't know she was recruiting me. I just thought she was in my shadow. And that's Jan. I mean, she'd leave you voicemails that, would stop. You used to have the answering machines, and they would stop because she would just keep talking, and then she would call back again and leave more. And so Jan is one of the most thoughtful, caring people. And so, that translates over. And she's hired a really good staff. I mean, obviously, Randy, Peterson, Henderson, and I played together as well. And, I think Jan's she's one of those people that wants great people around her too. So she's going to do an incredible job, and she always has, and she always will.
Right here, right?
Willie Gillespie, OU Daily. You've had about 24 hours since the Florida Gulf Coast game. What's one takeaway there that you've reflected on that maybe you can apply to Iowa tomorrow?
One, we needed to finish better. I mean, honestly, the biggest takeaway of the whole thing is we got to play the game. You can't play the scoreboard constantly. You can't worry so much about whether or not the ball goes in or what's happening the play before, what's going to happen the next play. You've got to stay present and play the game. I think we got too far ahead of ourselves, and then I think we got kind of held on to some things. But we've got to be able to play the game. Execution-wise, obviously, we need to be able to finish and have better ball movement to play against a team like Iowa. And we got to really defend better in terms of one-on-one, especially off the bounce.
We'll go to the last question up here, up front.
Ethan Beecher, Quad City Times. I asked Sahara about the process of coming to Oklahoma and the Iowa connection that you guys both have, and she mentioned that the recruiting process really started at Drake, so maybe not unlike your relationship with Jan and Lisa. I guess what was the process of getting Sahara down here, 11 hours away from home, and how impactful and important is she into what you're trying to establish here?
Well, Sahara I saw when she was in 7th grade, and I offered her, and she said no. And then I came here, and she was a little bit more open. She's special. I love, I have said this, and this is something to be really proud of in both programs, but she is a young woman that her freshman year, she had some moments, and her and I have had some tough conversations, and she's a truth seeker, though. Not a lot of young people really want to hear the truth, and she does. And in the 20-whatever years I've been coaching, she has grown more in 1 year than I have ever seen any student athlete grow. And I'm talking in every area. She's our everyday person. She lights up a room. I know you could kind of see her intensity in here, but her smile is infectious. She's competitive. She's doing well in school. Her community should be so incredibly proud of her. I know they are. But I don't know if they know the half of it. I mean, her leadership, her drive. I just feel so lucky to get to coach her, and that's how our recruiting process was. She's not somebody that really liked it. She wasn't really into it, but she seeks the truth, and she wants she wants real people. She wants an authentic relationship. She doesn't want people to tell her how good she is. She wants people to tell her what she's got to do better. And I tell you what, her skill set's going to continue to catch up to her because the rest of it she's got at an elite level. And so she works really, really hard, and that's all going to come. But, man, she's really special.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you all. Thanks for covering women's basketball. You guys have been amazing. So appreciate you. Boomer. Sorry, had to add that too.
All right. We'll start today with student athletes from Iowa. From left to right, we have Lucy Olson and Sydney Uffalter. We'll now open it up to questions. Right here.
Jack Birmingham, Daily Iowan. For either of you or both of you to answer, what is one thing that you guys are looking to do specifically, besides obviously advance in tomorrow's game against Oklahoma, especially with this one being maybe a little personal with Coach Baranczyk from Iowa, and there's a lot weighing on this game maybe.
Lucy, will let you start and then go to Sydney.
Yeah, I think winning is definitely the main goal, but I think just playing our game, like focusing on ourselves and making sure that we get better every day and that we're really sticking with the game plan.
Yeah, we're going to handle it just like any other game, and we know how good we are. We've been playing some pretty good basketball, so just having that confidence and knowing that we should be in this game and we can compete with anyone.
Right here, up front.
OKC Sports Radio. I'm curious what you guys think about Oklahoma. They do have a unique style in that they're always up and down. They get shots up quickly and things like that. I know you played some teams like that this year, but talk about the matchup and how you guys see the matchup with Oklahoma.
Yeah, I think luckily we just played Murray State, who also does the same thing, so that kind of prepared us in the Big Ten. Plays pretty fast, so we've had a lot of games up and down, and we know it's a game of runs, but throughout our season, we've had a lot of different situations, so I think we're ready for anything.
Yeah, I mean, they're a great team. We give all the respect to them, but like you said, they like to push the ball, but we also like to push the ball and get up and down, so it'll definitely be a fast-paced game, and we're excited.
Cliff Brunt, Associated Press. So my question is about dealing with Reagan Beers, because obviously, I mean, you guys are guards, obviously, but, she's quite a force inside. And I know you guys got some bigs, too. How do you, I guess, look to slow her down, because she can really get it going for them?
Yeah, she's definitely a really tough player. We've talked about her a lot. I think it's nice that we have a couple of bigs that will be able to give different looks on her. Yeah, like last game, Hannah got in foul trouble, but we had Ava step up. So we have a bunch of different threats that I think just giving her different looks will be helpful.
Yeah, just being physical with her. I mean, she's a big post, so you can't just let her go where she wants. But I think all of our posts have done a great job at that, and we know that they like to offensive rebound as well, so making sure we put a body on someone and box out.
Anything else? All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Nice, thanks.
Quick. All right, we're now joined by the head coach from Iowa, and we'll open it up to questions for head coach Jan Jensen. Right up front.
Jan, Jack Birmingham, Daily Iowan. Obviously, and I've asked Oklahoma's coach about this as well, this game's going to be probably like a good way, but a little bit personal. You've got a program veteran in her own right now coaching the opposing team for a chance to go to the Sweet 16. She said, obviously, all great things about you, the Iowa program. I'd assume it's mutual, but I don't know what's kind of going through your mind as you know, this is probably going to be the most like close to home matchup that you guys have played this year, except maybe Drake. So what does it feel like?
Well, I think one thing that's interesting is like Jenny and I aren't playing one-on-one, right? I think there's a lot of questions about, I'm not going to say who'd win if we played one-on-one. I still got something in my bag, Jenny. Just tell her that. But I think, I think that's part of the storyline of, seems like the NCAA always likes the storylines. But, I would prefer to be cheering for her, and I think she would be doing the same way, the same thing. You'd like to think, I believe in our, the teams that we've coached when I was part of Lisa Bluter's staff, and what I'm continuing, I hope, is like, we have that saying, once a hawk, always a hawk. And I believe that Jenny really feels that way. So I think she's proud of that, but she's also an amazing coach, right? Look at the success she's had. One of the most competitive, fiery, never going to back down kids that I've ever coached, right? So she's really good. She can separate all that. She's not a nostalgic or sentimentalist. She's just going to get after it and go. But with that saying, I think she's really proud that she's from Iowa. So I think the only thing is one of us is going to have a really fun moment, right? We're going to go to the Sweet 16, and that's great. But I think exactly what she said is that I would assume it's been good, and I think it's accurate. That's the only drawback is we both would have rather been there, right? But when the ball goes up, it's been a long time since she's been in an Iowa Hawkeye uniform, right? So I think it'll be, a really good game, and I think it'll be competitive, hopefully. They got a lot of size I got to contend with, but we'll get to that later. But I'm really proud of her. All of our former players, whether they're a doc right now or they're in law or whatever, it's fun to watch them grow and succeed. And so it's Lisa Bluter would feel the same way. It's really cool. So you always have those bonds that are established when you get to coach these amazing young women, and she's certainly a shining star. Right here.
James Hale, OK Sports Radio. I've watched you guys play quite a bit. The Sooners' style of play, I'm curious. Talk about that, because we're going to talk about their size. They do have great size, yet they love to get up and down the court, too. So talk about this matchup.
Yeah, well, Jenny, she's always liked to score a lot of points, right? And we typically do as well. But her pace of play is number one in the country. She's going to go, and she's got everybody on the floor can usually pull it and shoot a three at a pretty good percentage. And she has, bigs that can do that too. And that's always harder when you got a couple of her bigs that can stop and hit a trail three, or if you decide not to guard them. They're able to hit it if, they get on. Even, Reagan is one of those beers. So that's one thing, their system, they play really, really fast. And then she's added some really good portal pieces, right? Beers, I recruited the heck out of Beers at high school and then tried to get her in the portal. But then Jonas came along with her, and then Peyton Verhulst tried the first time when she went to Louisville, right? So added those two. Peyton plays really fast. She's one of my all-time favorite kids I recruited. So those, along with the great players that other ones I just don't know as well, I didn't recruit them. So it's really hard, because if you give them this much room, any position, they're going to pull it. And when they're on, and I thought yesterday's game was an example of that. Their first game, maybe they didn't hit as well, or Florida Gulf Coast was, keeping it close. And then after 7 points in about 2 minutes, it was like 30. They're just so explosive. And they're explosive with size. And that's a really hard guard, And not just one player with size, one young woman with size. Reagan, kid off the bench. We did recruit Colleton, just big, So it'll be a big challenge, but we'll be giving it our best shot. I'm just happy I got the shot.
Cliff.
Yeah, Cliff Brunt, Associated Press. You mentioned Reagan Beers. A lot of times she'll go against a team and they won't have anybody with the size to deal with her. You guys have several. You got a couple of 6'4s, a 6'2 that's very active. Your thoughts on that matchup and what you have to counter her?
Yeah, I think I was, hadn't watched her in person since high school. Then just when she was at Oregon State, watched and kind of like, would have been great, right? And then seeing her in person yesterday, it's like with all of your centers, especially when you don't have a body, she's going to really have their way down low. But even with size, like if we put Addie O'Grady in there, she's just so good at splitting you in the middle of the paint. And when she pivots, if she gets it, anywhere from that where that SEC logo is on the floor up to that charge circle, it's money. I mean, it doesn't matter. You could have 3 hanging on her, right? She's just so strong, and she just owns that area. So there's just different, ways that we're, trying to. I don't think there's anything new that she hasn't seen, right? That the SEC hasn't thrown at her. So you just probably try to limit touches. I've always liked that we've had 3 centers, with O'Grady, Hayden, and Stalkey. They play different ways, but none of them are even remotely close in size to her. So the unfortunate thing is I have all these, but which one to go at which time, right? And that's been my $1 million question this whole year is when to counter with this, when they do that. And I'm still kind of watching some film and trying to figure out what that might look like if she gets on a tear, who I might switch out. I'm not trying to hide anything from them. I got to keep watching to see at what points in time it might be best to go with Hayden versus O'Grady.
Go up front.
Ryan Aber from the Oklahoman. Jen, you touched on Jenny there. What do you remember about her as a recruit and as a player, especially that transition from Drake to Iowa?
Yeah, we recruited her really hard. We were at Drake at the time when she was a senior, so rising senior, and then she chose to go to Iowa. But then our coaching staff got the job at Iowa. So I remember one of my first calls was like, "Hello, we get to coach you anyway," But we had a great rapport. She just was, I think she would tell you that. She, I think, enjoyed the Drake program. We were successful at the time, but just had her heart set on a Big Ten in Iowa. And so we moved over, and that freshman year, Randy Peterson-Henderson, my new coach on staff, she was a senior, and Jenny was her freshman. So they were a really good combination of 5'4". Jenny was the 4 position, and Randy was the 5. And Iowa had struggled a couple of years before, and we won the Big Ten tournament that year. And so Randy Peterson-Henderson did a great job leading that group, and Jenny was this just competitive, fiery freshman that was the perfect person to just help turn that thing. And I just remember her fight, and it's been no surprise, if you watch her, she's got that fight on the sideline, and she's going to go and she's going to, attack anything that she feels is worth doing. She's going to give it everything she's got. So I just remember that about her. Never would back down. Nothing was ever undoable. And I think that thought process has always served her really well. Yeah.
Stay up front.
Ryan Chapman, seriously on the side. You mentioned talking about Reagan with try to just limit touches. How hard is that with Jenny's style of she's not afraid to pull the bigs out, like I kind of mentioned, and get everyone the ball in any spot?
It is hard. I mean, and I'm not trying to undersell and over-deliver. I mean, everybody in the SEC or they've faced before. It's just when you're going that fast and you're trying to make transition, you're locating, right? You got to locate where Verhulst is because she'll stop and pull it right inside the March Madness logo, right? And then she can hesitate and go in on you. And then you have 4s. The 4s can shoot. Williams can post up like as strong per capita of weight or inches as Beers. So you got to be careful on her coming down in transition and just whipping and posting up your guard. I haven't watched all the teams in the SEC, but to have like a 3 position, a 4 position, and a 5 position that are all posting, in my opinion, as strong as anybody in the country, that's what makes them so hard. Because you kind of have to help sometimes on Williams when she's posting up. But if you're helping on her, they're so smart and they're going to kick it out. Or if you're just doing a typical, I'm going to sag off the weak side, they're going to skip it and they're going to hit you with Verhulst or whoever. Yesterday, is it Van or Vaughn? Van. Wow, her threes. And she looks like she shouldn't do that, right? Just strong, and I'm just going to post up at the block. So difficult, high level. Like if you had to give the degree of difficulty to guard Oklahoma, if it was like a dive in the Olympics, you see that? Whatever the 10 is, that's it, right? And I think you just got to just try to be as solid as you can. But you can't be shocked if Reagan's going to hit like 4 in a row. If you just get down there and you can't, defend it enough that high-low look, it's just going to be a challenge, but it's fun, I do have some things we're going to do, but I'm not going to say it, right, to all of you. But I got some things we're going to try, but I don't think it's going to be anything new that they haven't seen. I just have a lot of respect, and I think it'd be so fun to have those 4 bigs. Holy cow. They're just really good. That high-low game's really good.
We'll stay over here to the right.
Willie Gillespie, OU Daily. Come to Norman playing. Jenny Baranczyk just talked about really pushing to get the crowd out tomorrow. So what's the preparedness? What's the mindset as you play a home Sooner crowd here?
Yeah, I think, just that's a luxury of being a 4. And I would love, we've been before a lot of my years as, the last recent ones. But I tell you, this particular team that I've gotten to coach, I just am so grateful that I'm here. And it's hard. I know it. But the Sooner people have done a great job. The NCAA, it's been a great experience, regardless of the outcome tomorrow. It's fun to play in front of fans. I wish it was black and gold. But women's basketball, when we have great support, it's growing so much. So I hope there's a great fan base, even if a lot of them are going to be wearing, crimson. It's not red, right? Crimson and cream. I got to get that right. Don't need people yelling at me about that. But I hope they will. First and foremost, the Sooner product is really good. So hopefully that will happen. But yeah, everybody asks me, do you wish you were at home? Well, yeah. But our journey has been such a special one. And me personally, when I just think about my life and all my blessings, just to get to be in the NCAA tournament and winning last night or yesterday morning was really special. I'm glad we had that locker room, and it'd be great to have another locker room. But man, I'm happy to be here, and I hope they do come out if they listen to Jenny's call.
We'll do the last one to Cliff over there.
Cliff Brown, Associated Press. So first of all, I saw your stats in high school, and wow.
Never met a shot I didn't like. We all had our roles. I had a fun role.
But you've seen the game from there in Iowa in the 6-on-6 all the way to Caitlin Clark last year and now being in the position you're in. With that being said, the sport's at an unprecedented point right now. Parity, people staying home, different things like that. What do you think about the possibility of this tournament expanding? Is it in the right place right now, or is it something that you see possibly being a good thing to grow from a numbers standpoint?
Yeah. I think that's, I appreciate you mentioning the Iowa history. If you were ever coming to my office, my grandmother was the Hall of Fame MVP of the 1921 state tournament in Iowa. And I have her ball, the ball they used, and I have the little trophy she got, and I have it stacked with some of our Final Four memorabilia from 2023 and 2024. And so my wonder and my amazement from, she got to have that experience in 1921, and Iowa's always been pretty proactive when it comes to women's basketball. Oklahoma has too. They've been one of them, real supportive. But I just think my ride has been amazing because I had a grandmother that played and was kind of a pioneer, and then I kind of followed in her footsteps. And then, I've gotten to be part of 2 ground zeros with Caitlin Clark and the ascension of when the NIL started, and then to have a player like Caitlin. No one really had that at that particular moment of what Caitlin did. And now I'm in the rev share ground zero, right? So being at this place in time, I don't know. None of us know exactly how we're going to all do that, right? But to be able to be part of that and trying to figure it out, I think is another cool blessing. And so as I'm looking at the men's regionals that they've played, right, they haven't always been totally sold out either, some of them. And I think sometimes we look and we're like, oh, gosh, always, what the guys are doing. I wonder if you ever flip it back, like what would it be like? I mean, there'd be holy heck to pay if we made the men go do this. If we were going to have the men play at a home site, right? Because it's always the money. We can't do it. No one would watch if the women do it. But some of those regionals, you might even spike it if you did it for that, right? So now it's interesting. There's more money. Now, much has been said about, since the COVID year when Sedona Price showed the weight room, all the things, and now it's pretty marketable. And then Caitlin and company blew it out of the water, what could happen if you invested in women's sports. So to your question, I don't know. I mean, it depends. It depends. Our market's pretty on fire. I mean, how blessed am I? Our fan base held and sold out again, right? So I think it'd be an interesting study of the regionals or where the men, and I didn't watch much of the men. I just saw a couple of those early ones where I didn't see a whole lot of sellout fans those first rounds. So I don't know which question should be asked. Is this the model that creates that excitement when you're playing at home and there's a buzz always? Or should we always be pushing, should a road to a national title really go through a home court? I don't know. I mean, that's where we are now. So I just think it's really interesting. But I'd kind of like to see some feasibility studies or fictitious numbers on what projections of the men's flipping it the other way and see what those dollars would be and what the crowd support would be. But then you probably can't really equal it because Oklahoma's tickets are $13 a ticket. I'm pretty sure at those regionals it's not $13 a ticket at wherever, Dayton, Cleveland, or whoever. That's all I got for you, my little non-educated guess of whatever would be. But I find it fascinating. I would love it if women's sports could keep growing. And I'm going to be working on doing my part to continue it. All right. Thanks for covering us.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
All right, a couple reminders. Hammond Communications will post a recording of this press conference.